Okay, make sure it's working. Welcome to Ram-pinions. This is your host Amaya,
And Ryan.
and today we're going to be talking about one of the underrated movies of 2024.
Furiosa.
So this is my second time watching it. Ryan,
This is my fourth time probably. I like this film a lot.
honestly, watching it the second time, I like it. I feel like I have much more of an appreciation for it. Okay. Now let's get into it. We're gonna break this down into 4 sections: acting, writing, directing, and cinematography. And first, we're gonna start off with acting.
For acting, I think the person who really stole the show was Chris Hemsworth. I think he did great as Dementis. What do you think?
I definitely agree with that. I feel like he was a villain, and you could see how he got to that point without him even having to say too much. Like I feel like he was obviously acting more villainous, but then we saw slight little peaks of humanity in him.
I think so too. I think he had a soft spot for Furiosa, mainly because I feel like he saw his kids in her.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he briefly mentions that.
Like in the beginning, especially because I mean, he gives his little toy to her, and I feel like right after the scene where he kills her mom, he gives her the teddy. He's like, "Yeah, this used to belong to my little beauties," and I feel like watching it the first time, I was confused. I was like, how does he feel about her? Like you literally just murdered her mother, and now you're trying to play nice with her, like, hey, like me, like I'm your new dad now, like your new parent, like you literally just made me watch my own mom get murked.
But I feel like also he low-key wanted a new kid, but also I feel like he was being so nice to her to kind of get her on his good side and explain where the green place is and stuff like that.
No, yeah, I feel like we see a battle often in Dementis of his humanity and the other side of that, and I feel like him and Furiosa, their relationship shows that a lot, and especially yeah, he obviously wanted to use her for the green place, but I feel like he kind of slightly put that on the back burner, and then his care for Furiosa was over that for a little bit, I mess with this girl, I like her, da da da. Like, yeah, I want to get to the green place, but at this point, I've got a daughter, a companion, or someone that's kind of I don't know, looking up to me and kind of makes me feel more mighty, you know?
Yeah, I think so too, and also I feel like he low key just wants like people to follow him. It doesn't matter who it is
Yeah.
necessarily. I think it's he wants to cast the net, widest net possible. He wants to be the most charismatic leader in the wasteland.
Yeah.
And Loki might be I don't know, the Immortan Joe is not very charismatic. He's more strong. He's a very strong leader, but I feel like if I was in the wasteland, I would listen to Dementis more than I would listen to Immortan Joe.
No, yeah, because I feel like for the other dude, him, yeah, people fear him. Like we respect you because we're scared that you're gonna kill us. Not that Dementus's followers don't think that, but it's that I feel like for them, it's we want to please you.
And
also, I'm scared of you, but I want to please you too.
And also, I feel like there's more riches involved with Dementis than Immortan Joe. Immortan Joe's you follow me, follow my lead, you'll get in Valhalla, and you'll live forever as this great warrior. Yeah. Whereas Dementis is you want to be have all the stuff you ever wanted right now. Follow me.
Yeah, we're gonna go to riches together versus the other guy. No, all your work is gonna get me to riches, and I'm not gonna kill you. Yeah, you're gonna get to this afterlife, and I mean, literally, they show that when they first meet the first what's his name, War Dog or War?
Yeah, War Boy.
He literally is this Valhalla? Literally, you can obviously see he's implemented that whole mindset in their brain with this dude having an arrow literally through his head, and him. I don't know if it was it intentional for him to try and lead them back to them. Was that I kind of was confused on that part if that was supposed to happen.
I think he was. I mean, the War Boys aren't necessarily smart. Yeah, they're not really educated at all. So I feel like just being naive, leaning on that.
Yeah, it was probably just oh, y'all want to go to a place of green?
Oh,
I know green. I see green. I used to see green. That's where I
like,
was just
oh,
at.
you need to place abundance. Oh, fucking the Citadel has everything.
And it's crazy because he didn't even know what abundance. He's like, abundance. What's abundant? Pure. Like what? I can't even remember exactly what he said, but he was like plentiful. What is that?
Copious amounts.
What is copious amounts? And like, but to stay on acting and like characters and delivery, Furiosa, the fact that she went so long, or sorry, like she went so long without saying a word, but we knew what she was thinking. We knew what she was feeling. We almost like you put yourself in her shoes.
Yeah, like she is. She's definitely the self-insert. That's the reason why she doesn't talk that much. She's a
Yeah,
self-insert character, but at the same time, there's a reason why she doesn't talk so much. It's very believable, and it makes sense to the story why she doesn't.
yeah,
Like obviously, she talks. People are gonna know she's a girl, and then obviously they're gonna be like, "No, you can't do this shit."
yeah.
But like, I don't know. I think Anya Taylor-Joy did a pretty good job acting as her. I don't think she's the best actor in the film.
I think the younger version of her, anything, in
Yeah,
terms of like specifically that and her character.
I think she did a great job. I think Anya Taylor-Joy did a great job. I don't think she's the best actor in the whole film. I think Chris Hemsworth did the best job. Even then, I like Jack even more. I think maybe you like Furiosa in this film, but I do like Furiosa a lot. I like Furiosa more in Fury Road than in this movie, but also she talks a lot more.
I like Jack a lot too, specifically for his like whole character introduction scene. Like he didn't speak for a lot of it, but just how the other people were acting with him, how he was really carrying himself, you could tell, okay, this is the top man. He has a lot of respect. And if anything this man says goes and people are going to listen to it, period, because they're like, this man knows what he's talking about. And I like that, and the fact that he didn't really have to say too much, and that's a lot of props to the actors for being able to deliver that type of emotion and just like purpose without using
Without saying
exactly.
anything, yeah.
So that's really, I agree. I like Jack a lot too, in the fact that we didn't know his name for like a lot of the film. So I really messed with that. I do. I give a lot of props to the younger Furiosa because she was kind of the one who didn't speak the most.
Yeah. I think it's also nice seeing a lot of the returning cast. I think a lot of them did really well to flesh out their characters, like the purple people eater.
I definitely think you can speak more on that because I haven't.
Yeah,
I'm the one who hasn't watched. I have watched Fury Road, but it's been like ages. Like I don't remember. It's basically I haven't watched it. But Ryan,
yeah.
he's watched all of them.
I've watched every. I haven't finished Mad Max 3. That's only because I mean, if you watch Mad Max 3, you know what I mean. Um, I've watched every single one. I love Mad Max 2. I think Mad Max 2 is the best in the series, and then Fury Road's close second. This is my third favorite though by far in the whole series. I think this film is really good, and I think the actors did a really good job with really not having a lot of dialogue to work with, and mostly just going off like action lines and
Yeah,
just general like feeling rather than telling me.
I feel like reflecting on the other Mad Max's movies and like their acting. How would you compare it to like this movie?
I would say this is very faithful to the Mad Max movies. I would say like especially like look at Mad Max 2. Like Mel Gibson has even less amount of dialogue than Anya Taylor-Joy in this film. He only has
Yeah,
like 16, but still like you can see where he's at just from his own like how he reacts to stuff. Like for instance, you see a girl getting attacked by these dudes, he doesn't react because that's how the wasteland is. This is what happens.
right.
But towards the end, he like basically like almost like not sacrifices himself, but he puts himself in an extreme amount of danger for these group of survivors to get away. These like good-hearted group of survivors to get away.
Right.
And I think this film does a really good job of keeping the like basically like show don't tell. Like
Yeah.
that's the biggest like pro of Mad Max. Like Mel not Mel Gibson, George Miller will always like choose to show you rather than tell you where the character's at. Like
Yeah.
for instance, like what I meant with Mad Max just like watching a woman get attacked by these men.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't do anything because this is how the world is. This is how it is. Like it's like whatever. It doesn't matter. Like because like this happens all the time to women.
Yeah.
I think this does a good job with showing like Rictus and Furiosa. Like that's
Yeah.
still a very strong aspect of the wasteland of being
Yeah.
brutal and um just very like
And like Dementis and
yeah
Furiosa, honestly, because like when we were watching it earlier, it mentioned like you don't really like recognize it unless you know about the Mad Max world, but like it was a slight favor from Dementis that like he was kind of keeping her so close to him because otherwise she would have just been fed to the wolves and
yeah
God knows what would have happened to her. So like granted, it was definitely for selfish reasons why he kept her so close, but like when you look at it in big picture, he did her a favor and like
yeah
spared her from possible trauma, especially because she's a little girl. I mean, like you said, Rictus. I mean, that slight scene of him just taking her back to his quarters, like you know what he was gonna do, you know what
yeah.
he wanted to do, and that just
Even then, like that goes into like George Miller's like directing style
mm-hmm.
almost. Like he it's very much show don't tell. Like never in this story does Rick just ever say, I want Furiosa. I want to, defile
Yeah,
Furiosa. He never says that.
exactly.
He shows it.
He plays with her wig. He has a little obsession with little jingles on her hair and just plays even the first when they show her to like all the wives and like where they're taken care of and he's behind her, like he plays with her wig and all that, and she obviously looks uncomfortable and then leaves, and then that scene shows them two looking at each other, which I feel like builds tension and foreshadowing to like what's gonna happen.
Which I think was very well done. And
Yeah.
just to go on a side tangent, I don't get why that like Rictus's actor got death threats from that. There's so many worse films that have done so much worse.
I
And
feel
like
like yeah, exactly.
I don't get that. Like I mean, he's an actor. If anything, he did his job right that y'all want to send death threats to this dude.
I think that speaks on just society now and how people do not understand how to separate the actor from their character. Like y'all, they are playing the character. Like just to get a little bit more off topic and not stay on that topic too long, but with 13 Reasons Why, the guy who I can't even remember his name, but the one who he was like the main villain. Like he was a football
I
player.
haven't
He's the
watched
one
it.
who had to switch schools. But anyways, he's a horrible person in the show, and people sent him death threats. And I think he had to take a break from just social media and like the internet, period. And he's nothing like that. He's an assumed sweet person in person, but he got death threats just because of how well he played that character. And it's just people need to learn how to separate the two.
Yeah, no. People, if you're watching this, please, it's art. It's not the person. The person agreed to do this, especially for like this case in Rictus.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Fury Road. You
Right.
can't just recast him. So even if he had a problem with doing the scene, which I don't see why not, the scene doesn't go beyond taking off a chastity belt, really, and taking her and like playing with her hair.
Right.
So I don't see the point in sending death threats to him or anything, but
yeah.
Anyways,
It's just right. It honestly just shows that the person did their job. They should have gotten paid for it too. Like they did their job well. Because otherwise, if they didn't do their job well, they wouldn't have been getting death threats. Not that they should have, but I feel like that just goes to show that they clearly did a really good job with that.
I think so too. And I just want to talk about Jack a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I like Jack a lot in this. If I kind of view him as a stand-in for Max in this series, but I think that works because I think that's the reason why in Fury Road, like Furiosa is so, like see something in Max. They are very similar people.
Yeah.
They're both very like determined people, get done what they want to get done, are very intimidating people, and you can tell just from their energy that they are both very important characters. And I like Jack a lot. I get why like Hideo Kojima wants him to play like Solid Snake. I could see that. I think he did really good in this film.
Yeah.
Don't know his name. I need to learn his name, but
It's just Jack for now. But with all that being said, we can switch into the writing portion and like just review this film honestly because
I think that might be one of the strongest parts.
yeah, I think pacing and I think pacing is the biggest thing I have to put on this. I personally hate when I realize that I'm taken out of the plot and it's just something random happened for no reason. However, George Miller, I the first time I've seen someone do a fantastic job of putting random things that don't necessarily like click with the plot directly, but obviously it clicks with the plot overall and it doesn't just take me away from what's happening that much.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that goes into his like directing style and overall like also just his writing. Like he is very much like I swear if you looked at maybe not this one in particular, but if you looked at like Road Warrior, like Mad Max 2 Road Warrior, you would see an insane amount of action lines in that script compared to other scripts, like especially compared to like a Quentin Tarantino film that's so dialogue heavy.
Yeah.
Now I'm not hating on Quentin Tarantino. That's his strong suit is dialogue.
Right.
I think George Miller's strong suit is lack of dialogue and more focus on body language, action, camera movement, and all this other stuff. I think that is what he focuses on. Which, if you looked at the script, you would see most likely a insane amount of action lines, which works, especially for an action film.
Yeah. I definitely have a lot of respect for people, just directors, honestly, directors and cinematographers that tell most of the story just through like visuals, like how the actor is, like the emotions on their face, like
And
what's
how
happening, like the actions and stuff.
tight the camera is on them, or how
Exact
far the camera is from them.
heavy on. Well, we can't even touch the camera right now because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
be another topic. But yes, camera is extremely important. But like, it's just it's so easy to obviously move a story along when you can literally use words to do so. So I respect George Miller, like you said, a lot for like most of the movie. It's just action. It's just we're seeing like when we see Jack and he's introduced, no one even explicitly says, oh, "We're getting jumped right now, and we're needing to like fend for ourselves. Our stuff's trying to get like they're trying to steal our stuff." Da 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 da. Like
We got to protect ourselves. It's never stated in that sense. It's just like, oh, we're getting jumped. Let's fight back.
exactly. And it's just very, 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 very intense. And Furiosa, like just when she's because that scene is also revealed that she's a girl, and obviously we can hear Jack's facial expression. What? You're a girl? And she's just like, yeah, but you know, you're literally losing your entire crew, and we're still being jumped, and I'm really good at like doing what I do, and she obviously displays that. So I feel like that's when they start kind of that's when their mutual respect for each other I feel like develops
And
obviously.
also, just being the last two to survive that attack, anyways, is
Yeah,
obviously like, okay, like, we're obviously the two that are like kind of built different in this
exactly.
sense. Like, we're the two that knows how to fight, knows what to do, how to be a road warrior, because that's really what the Imperators and the Praetorians are in Mad Max.
Yeah,
They're road warriors. They drive war rigs. They drive V8s. They drive all this stuff that's basically like war material.
yeah,
And that's also why, Jack's like, oh, I'm going to teach you everything there is to road warfare, because that is the new war, is fought with cars in Mad Max, and it's all fought on just like road.
yeah,
And Max is obviously a road warrior, and so is Furiosa and Jack.
yeah. It's I would say that I think this movie was also written very well in the sense that you don't really need to have watched any other Mad Max movie.
It helps.
It helps obviously because you know like what's going on,
Like,
but you also can figure out stuff too. Like if you're watching and paying attention, like one movie that came out this year that I feel like we'll probably watch and review. that didn't do as good of a job as that is Dune. Dune, I think you honestly need to do a lot of your own research to not be as confused as all get out. Because me personally, I didn't do as much research as I needed, and when I watched it, I was low key very confused. I obviously appreciated it,
Also,
but
I think that's why like this movie. There's very little exposition. You're like,
yeah,
this is the world. This is how it works. But
mm-hmm,
you're not told like you're not like, hey guys, like, well, you're not like explained how the world works. You see how the world works. You see that this world is very cruel. You see that this world's
mm-hmm,
very dog eat dog. If you're not the strongest person in the room, you're going to get walked over. You're going to perhaps get killed.
mm-hmm. Like he does a really good job of showing that, going into enough detail and like kind of keep like I don't know. It's like going on like a jog and like you point out a tree but you don't stop jogging versus like point out a tree and stop where you're doing stop walking and all that. Now it's like he keeps the story moving while kind of explaining things as you go so you're like not totally confused, and by the end of it you get the world, like you know
Yeah.
what's going on and you understand everything honestly. And I feel like this is, if you haven't watched any of the Mad Max movies, like tongue twister, but if you haven't watched any of the Mad Max movies and you start off with this one, I feel like this is a good foundation to have. Like I know it's only a prequel for
Which is also why I wish it just did more well. Like, you don't need to watch Fury
yeah,
Road for this film. You don't need to watch Mad Max 2, Mad Max 1, Mad
it
Max
is a
3.
crime that it didn't do well. That's yeah, it definitely should have done a lot better than it did.
It should have. I think so. I think this is still my, like, number one film of 2024. I haven't seen anything that comes remotely close to the, like, storytelling or, you know, just overall, like, look of the film. It's very unique in almost very much almost every way.
Did Dune come out this year or last year?
I don't know. I mean, I like Dune, but I mean, like, if I'm gonna watch a desert film, I'm gonna watch Mad Max. I'm not gonna watch Dune.
I can't. I don't know if Dune came out this year. I will say I like Dune. I don't know. I don't know. Now that I've watched this movie again, I will say I'm a bit conflicted on like which one I like
I
more.
think Dune came out last year, but I think it came out late last year, so
Yeah, but honestly, oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even have too much more to say on like the plot and the pacing. I think it's fine. I think everything's fine. There's really not much. I don't know. I don't really have that
I
much
would.
to.
I think Fury Road has better pacing, but also this movie takes place like a span of like 10. I was like 10 years at least. I mean, like, obviously we see young kid Furiosa, then we see full grown adult Furiosa.
Yeah.
Fury Road takes place the course of like 2 days.
Oh.
So like it's a lot more fast paced, almost real time. But
Oh. Okay. I
so
will.
I think that's the big reason why this pacing's not as good as Fury Road. Fury Road's a lot technically a shorter story if
I
you look at it
see.
just from like time in the story.
I will say they did pace. I will say up until like when Anyi. Hmm. I think like right before Jack dies, that's when I kind of start getting a little antsy with the pacing of the story. Up until that point, I think it was done really well. But at that
Yeah, I think
point,
so too.
I think I'm like kind of waiting for it to end. Like I know it's about to end because we've gotten through all the nitty gritty. So I'm like, okay, let's get to the point. That's really the only
And
time
also
I've kind of been like,
the
okay, let's.
ending is it's not bad, but like I
Yeah,
think it could have been a little better. I think honestly,
it's like a little bittersweet.
yeah. I mean, it's not even. I don't know. Like I don't know. I like it. Okay. I don't. I think it could have been much better. I think it could have. I think if she would have been less patient with him and not toyed with him as much and just killed him, I feel like that would have been a little bit more impactful.
Yeah,
Especially since I mean, like in most other films, that's how all the villains go. Like
yeah. I honestly,
Humongous in Mad Max 2 dies in a car accident. Toe Cutter dies in a car accident. Immortan Joe dies from getting his face ripped off in Fury Road. Those are all like very sudden deaths. And I think it works a little bit better for this world.
I agree. I think he should have had a sudden death. I don't think it should have been an accident. I think honestly they should have waited a little longer to reveal her. Like obviously they would have should have showed that okay, she clearly cut his stuff so he can't go nowhere, took all his water so he can't drink nothing. And honestly, they should have not even shown her like being behind him in that light. They should have done none of that. They should have just had him run, and then like when they did the car, that's when we get her introduction. And then honestly just have her get up the car, have him try and like plead his case and boom, shoot him. I think they could have just did it like that.
But I did like the aspect of like, because Mad Max is all like, if you look at the timeline, it doesn't make sense. So it makes more sense that these stories are legends. So
I did like that
so I
aspect.
did
Like, oh, he could have died this way
like,
or
did he
that
die
way.
from getting pulled by the car like Jack did?
Yeah.
Did he die like how her mother did? Was he like executed on a cross almost, or did she just shoot him?
Right.
I like that part.
That part honestly was very nice. I do like that it's like, oh, this is almost like we're reading a history book of like what happened in the past that leads up to what's happening today. Like that's
So
honestly very nice. And it makes her, seem like a really cool legend.
yeah,
And honestly, even when she was driving off to go hunt him, they're like, "Oh, who's that?" And they're like, "Oh, that's Fallen Angel. That's the lone like da 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 da." Like they just let it happen. They just let it happen. They literally she boot
well,
gang their.
Rick just chased after her for some reason, but
It was like it was honestly, yeah, that was very nice, and how the end happened. Even like the beginning, some things just make me
but
mad because I'm a person watching it rather than like I know it's purely just writing, but I hate that she did not listen to her mom. I'm like, bro, if you listen to your mom.
I mean, yeah, but like she like also Fury Road happened, so you have to make her go to the Citadel
Yeah,
somehow.
it makes me. That's what I hate. Not hate. It's like a love hate relationship with like not even prequel because this is not like a complete prequel. It's only a prequel to one movie, but where you wish something could be a different way, but because the other movie that comes after this has already been filmed, you have to do it that certain way, and I hate it because I'm
Like
like,
you
ugh.
somehow have to get Furiosa to be Imperator to Immortan Joe, and then her, taking all his wives and blah blah blah, going back
Yeah,
to the Green Place, but the Green Place isn't there.
yeah.
But obviously she has to. Sorry, there's someone driving up right now. Uh, but yeah, like the Furiosa. God, okay, sorry. This dude's music's really loud.
But no, yeah. Honestly, I don't even know how much more you can go into
I
writing. You can
yeah,
honestly,
I think the main thing to take away from this writing is the lack of dialogue and how
yeah.
still the film makes complete sense.
And the pacing was very good. Like,
Okay, turn your music on. I'm sorry, people, if you can hear this.
no, if you can't hear it, like, we don't have super A quality mics.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways, with all that being said, we can move into the next section, which is directing. And honestly, everything we've been saying has honestly been an applaud to George Miller's directing.
But also, he writes and directs these movies.
Right.
So, like, this is kind of going to go hand in hand because the writing is very important to how he directs this film.
Mm-hmm.
But his directing is very good. Obviously, he focuses more on the visuals than maybe just straight up acting.
Yeah.
But still, like, there's very minimal dialogue. Not minimal. I mean, there's still like Dementis talks a lot. Dementis talks more than probably anyone else in this film.
Yeah.
But Dementis is almost like the whole focus of the film this way. But yeah, I think George Miller does really good as always, just being a very visual director and telling his story visually rather than telling us. And obviously the visuals help sell this so much.
Yeah, I feel like I understood what I was supposed to feel in each scene. There was really no confusion, like ever. Like, oh, am I supposed to be sad right here? Am I supposed like even like right now we're watching it again and Furiosa just like shed a tear, and they're over here analyzing like, oh, this she just shed a tear. Like sorrow is a little bit more zesty compared to like a tears of joy, and even the historian, the guy who was born before all this,
man.
his history man. he was born before all this even happened, and he cries too. So I feel like he did a very good job at, directing our attention at things that literally feed into the story and just the big picture and to the series overall. Like a
And
lot of things just like makes you appreciate, oh, this is a really good movie, and then you just, oh man, this just really goes into, because everything I feel like makes you kind of think about the movies in the past, like the other Mad Max movies as
like,
well.
yeah, for instance, like Dementis is a biker gang. Like he leads a biker gang. Toe Cutter from the first one was a leader of a biker gang. It's almost like an evolution from the original Mad Max trilogy to Fury Road. I feel like Furiosa kind of bridges that gap a lot more. It's like, where did all those biker gangs go? Why are there not everyone's just driving V8s? Everyone's obsessed with V8s rather than, like just straight up bikes. I feel like Dementis is that like bridge from Toe Cutter to Immortan Joe, at least in terms
Yeah,
of like villain progression.
yeah.
And he's also very much like Humongous, which is the main antagonist of Mad Max 2, which was also a leader of a biker gang.
Yeah, I feel like he does a great job at showing two different types of leaders and their followers' loyalty. Because obviously, a scene in the movie where they pull up on, I'm really bad with the names. When they pull up on Hugh, what's the dude's name? The big like the guy
Riches?
who's, no, his dad.
Oh, Immortan Joe.
A Morton Joe. Like he's a leader versus like Dementis, and both of their followers would die for their leader, but for like different reasons and like different types of
I
built
feel like
respect.
I feel like Dementis crew would die if they like knew they would get some stuff for it. Like, oh, I'll get like all this water, all this ammunition. Whereas a Morton Joe's like, oh, like the War Boys will be like, oh, if I die here right now, I'll go to
Right, it's a
Valhalla.
rite of passage.
Yeah.
Like,
If I
oh,
die for Morton Joe, I'm gonna reach Valhalla and I'll live happily ever after in Valhalla. Like
right. But if you
a
die for
more
Dementis, like, oh, I'm gonna give you something that's valuable, or I'm like,
also like a Morton Joe, I think he's a stronger leader since like in that sense. Like he's a god to his people.
yeah,
Like Dementis is just a very like, charismatic leader. He knows how to
relatable.
push like buttons of certain people, know how to get what he
Yeah.
wants, and so he'll get everyone else what he wants. But Amor Joe knows what he wants too, but he also knows how to subject his people.
Dementis, I feel like, puts himself on the same level as everybody. Like, oh, you suffer, I suffer too. Like, you were in the trenches, I was in the trenches too. Come with me, I will bring us out of the trenches. I will bring us to glory. Like, you will see more green than you've ever seen in your whole life. Versus,
Amor Joe's like, you die for me, you'll reach
yeah,
Valhalla, you'll have everything you want. Women, you'll have
exactly.
it. Food, you'll have it. Water, abundant.
Yep. And it's crazy because I feel like it's just, I don't even know. It's just, I really didn't even realize how well it shows the same type of like gangs, but just two different types of like mentality and leadership and community. Like it's just crazy. And then we even see the history, man. He switches sides. He was with Dementis, and he eventually at the end, and we don't even see how that happened.
No,
Like
you just
we just boom, we see that he's on the other guy's side. I'm like, oh, like dude, you were really for
yeah.
Dementis, like even before like Furiosa was introduced and brought into their whole gang. And then when she comes back to Bullet Town, or what's it called,
Bullet Farm.
Bullet Farm, we see that he's there with like all of them, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I honestly, it makes me wonder like why he switched sides,
I think it's the wasteland. You get like if you have people who will at least somewhat watch your back, like go with them. It's
True.
better than being on your own. The only person who legit sticks out on their own and the whole entire series is Max.
Yeah.
But also, Max is also very distant from all these other people. He knows about the world before and everything, so he's kind of like a man, like a fish out of water in that sense. He like especially if you
Yeah.
take the games as canon, which they're somewhat canon.
Mm-hmm.
These people would be like, I want the the big sign. He's like, oh, you want billboard? That's
Yeah.
what you want? And he's like, oh, sure, yeah, whatever that is. But somehow he knows what it is because he was a cop, and he
Yeah.
obviously Max is more of a legend than anything else in the series because like this is supposed to be like 200 years in the future, and he's still alive somehow.
No, yeah, I don't even know.
But also, I love how they included the wars from past Mad Maxes. Like, for instance,
The
right before the
intro.
wasteland, yeah, like in the beginning and the wasteland, like when the history man's talking about all the wars that have happened, he mentions like the water wars, which is the big thing that happens between Mad Max 1 and Mad Max 2, I think, or maybe right after Mad Max 2. But it's the reason why all these places are dry and stuff. Nuclear war, all this stuff is like that's how this wasteland actually formed. And I like how they mentioned that a little bit.
I will say, I love the use of sound. I You only really feel it in the theaters, or if you're like at home and you just have like
It
a
turned up.
beast, yeah, a beast sound system. But I love feeling the sound.
I love
Like,
those engines.
yeah, like, ooh, like especially when it has that deep grumble and like it fits the scene so well. Like, I don't know, when there was like a turning point in the story, like anytime it happened, like Furiosa, like when she gets irritated, you hear that grumble, that same like theme, just little
Or that like
sound.
turbo whining
Yeah, it's
like,
just, it, you feel it, and I'm like, oh yeah, stuff's about to go down, stuff's about to happen. Like, you feel like you are in, like, he really pulls you into this Mad Max world, and I'm like, I'm here, I feel it, and if anything, I have the same, like, I want this character to get what they want, because at this point it feels personal for me too now, and I feel like that is great directing when you kind of make it personal for the audience too. And because me and Ryan are also filmmakers, we did not mention that. That is obviously something, like, that is 1,000% something that I want to do. Like,
which
I want this to be personal for the audience.
which is also a thing I try to apply to my films as much
Mm-hmm.
as I can, or at least moving forward.
Right.
Just like not focusing so much on dialogue. I feel like that's what will shoot so many films in the foot. Like obviously, if you're Quentin Tarantino and you can write dialogue that good, then like yeah, go for it. Make your film so dialogue heavy, but you're doing so good at writing the dialogue.
Right.
But I feel like for films like action films in particular, like try to just to do as least like dialogue lines as possible, especially exposition.
It honestly helps you too. It's honestly a great skill to have, to be able to tell a story without having someone speaking on screen telling you exactly, like, don't tell the audience how they're supposed to feel. Oh my god, I'm sad, my mom just died. Like, no. Have the actor cry, maybe have her lip trembling, like her nose doing a thing, like her tear, like, like, show it, like, let us see it on their face, and not even just the face, let us see it in the scene, let the art show that,
Even
like.
yeah, even like since like that like crying aspect, like
Mm-hmm.
very few people like really cry in this film. Like Furiosa does when her mom dies.
Right.
She doesn't even cry when Jack dies. But that's
No.
also just that's the way the world is. You'll never know when it's your time to die. Especially like you don't know that in today, like in real life. You never know when you're gonna die.
Yeah.
But in the wasteland, you could die any second. You run out
And
of food, you run out of water, you get shot, you get kidnapped, you get just
like every
like
day is
war.
literally, like, actually, like, oh my god, I woke up, oh my god, I survived another
Which
day.
I think is that's why like Mad Max, it makes this world feel like oh no, it's hard to survive. You're not. It's not like just like like oh let's go to the desert, guys. Let's walk around for 5 months and then let's like find someplace and be fine. It's like no, like you have to you I don't know. It's very goal oriented.
And also, this could happen, this movie's hit like 10 times harder when it's like, the world honestly could turn out like this. Like, things could happen like this. Like, especially with the usage of just, like, you know, cars and stuff and like that. Like, I don't know, someone finds a car in the desert, like, immediately you're tearing it apart. Like, just scouring it. for like parts, like oh this engine, oh this tire, oh this that. Like it's just I don't know. It just kind of feels a whole different type of personal when it's I don't know when it could actually happen. Like
Yeah,
obviously, there's a whole different type of feeling when you're watching a fantasy film and you're like really into it because it's like I'm in dream world, I'm in dreamland, but it's like this is a movie, but like I could this could happen one day. Like this isn't that too far off. And honestly, I do love the whole wild excuse me the whole Wild West biker gang. Oh my gosh, touch like having skulls attached to the front of their bike. That is cool. And honestly, how what I'm never gonna get this man's name right.
Morton
A
Joe.
Morton Joe, like his character design, like
That's
like I love it. Like
it's
it's
pretty
just
cool.
it's cool. Like I want to know what he looks like under all that. I feel like he's just it's gonna look nasty and grimy and like
I
decaying.
know that mask is welded to his face because how he dies. He gets a rat
Uh,
like mask ripped off in Fury Road.
uh,
Spoilers if y'all haven't watched Fury Road. I would think if you're watching Furiosa, you would at least know Fury Road a little bit.
I know one thing you brought up. It doesn't even have to do with like directing completely, but the fact that this is like in Australia and Dementis is Australian, but nobody else is.
Yeah, I mean like some people aren't. Like you can hear some people being Australian, but like Amor and Joe isn't.
Right,
Rictus isn't. Scrotus isn't. Um, Not gonna lie, I wonder why,
right,
but at the same time, I don't really care that much.
right. It's not like oh, this makes the movie trash, but it's just kind of like a especially because Dementis, who is one of
Especially,
the main like focuses besides like Furiosa and like the other stuff. He's Australian, like heavily too. Like you can
yeah.
hear it, but everybody else around him
What I
is not.
also wonder, because like they made Mel Gibson Australian. Like he's not Australian, he's American. But like
Who does Mel Gibson play?
Mad Max.
Oh, see, I haven't watched any. I haven't watched. I don't even. I really need to go back and watch them. Like that's why I'm like, if you haven't watched all the other Mad
He does
Maxes, I'm like that, and I love this movie.
he does he does a really good job. He does better than like
That
Tom
is
Hardy.
interesting because he's in this movie. Like we see Mad Max,
We do for a second.
not like him,
Yeah, I don't know if it's Mel Gibson or Tom Hardy.
but I'm just like making the connection. Like yeah, like Dementis is Australian. Mad Max is also within this movie in this world, and he's like not Australian, but he's been here as long as Dementis, who is Australian. You
Yeah.
know, so it makes you just kind of like a wonder if I ever could ask George Miller, huh? Like, what answer would I get?
It could
Truly,
also be just more audience
yeah,
too. I think that might be
it
a
was a
big
good
reason.
choice. Honestly, like I
I
love
don't
it.
think it's
Chris
bad.
Hemsworth was a great
And
choice.
also, this is like 50 years after like Mad Max 1. Like once again, people like Mad Max isn't a real person at this point. He's
So
a
let's.
bot.
I kind of want to put the okay. So the first time we see Mad Max, how old is he?
He's like young. He's like 20s.
So
He like
20s.
he has a he's like he's married to his wife. They just had a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very young. Mel Gibson was very young doing this.
And then the next time, like timeline wise, not even
I
actor, like
let's say, I mean, I would say like let's say Max at the oldest is like maybe like 25 in Mad Max 1. I would say he's about like 29, 27 in Mad Max 2.
okay.
And then Mad Max 3 is probably about like 35 years old.
In this movie, how old would he be? Because like
I mean, in Fury Road, he's like the same age. So
hmm,
maybe like at most like how old Tom Hardy was playing Mad Max.
that's great. You know, I really honestly need to go back and watch these now.
But I don't know. I kind of like Miller for that too. Just being like not like Max is more of a legend than he is a actual
So
person.
he doesn't have a face, you know. Like I
He
feel like I said that wrong, but like because he's a legend, there isn't like a set person to portray him. It's
Yeah,
more of like how he is portrayed that stays the same.
or almost like it's like a title almost.
Yeah,
Like cause like
Ghost Rider.
yeah,
Because like
almost.
anyone can be Ghost Rider, but like the entity of him and his purpose and like who he is the same.
But yeah, some people have almost like also made like guess like oh maybe he's just naming his kids Max and they're all just like being Mad Max, but it doesn't make sense.
No, yeah. But with that being said, we can move into the final category, which is cinematography, which I feel like is definitely
It's
cool.
definitely the most important in this
Yeah,
film.
this cinematography. Oh my! As a filmmaker, I feel like honestly, I feel like any filmmaker who just has respect and who can,
I think the
I
reason
respect this.
I think the reason why I like this film so much is very little shots or static, like very,
Yes,
very
I
little.
love moving shots. So it just makes you feel more involved, and you forget you're watching a movie. When something's sitting still, it's like, yeah,
There's a
I'm
lot of
watching a movie.
push and pull
Oh, I
too.
loved, and I was telling Ryan earlier when, when they're having the whole confrontation with Dementis and I'm gonna say Joe. I'm gonna start saying Joe. I can't get the
Okay.
first name, but Joe. When they're the explosions that are happening. Normally, when explosions are happening within movies, you see the camera shake like side to side. I absolutely love that they go like push and pull because I feel like that's more realistic on how you would react, like your body would physically react to an explosion. You know, I mean, yeah, maybe side to side, but it's like heavy wind, like you're resisting it. So boom, you're going back, and when it stops, you're gonna be pulled forward. So I just love how he represented that visually.
I think I also just love the like that one scene where he's ramming the gate. I think
Yeah,
that is the most Mad Max scene in the whole film. Just the like bam, like he's close, back up. Now he's back in the car, but then you push it all the way forward. You're like you're in the car
yeah,
with him. I thought that was really impressive.
yeah. Because I mean, if you've even seen how cameras work and like how camera work is, period, you wonder how that is done because it's pulling. Oh, bro. Okay,
Oh, he's
pulling
fine.
focus is not that easy. You know.
Mm-mm.
And in that scene, they keep the focus, even when Chris Hemsworth is super far away, and even when he is up in your face, and it doesn't break. So when you know how hard it is to pull focus, that's also another reason why it's just so impressive. Because I'm like, dang, like I
And
also,
if he somehow like did that in post, that means they shot on like fucking 12K cameras
yeah,
because
oh
it's
my,
like 4K. It's like when you push in and stuff. I don't know how they did that. Like for instance, when they may have done in reverse, maybe, but like when he's ramming the gate, because it goes from like full pull out, you see the whole truck to push in, you can only really see the Mentis. So I'm just like, I wonder how they did that.
honestly, I want to. I would pay to see some of the BTS for these things because it's so cool, and I really want to know how much of it was done like
In post,
actually right or in post. And I honestly love that he doesn't he keeps everything in focus. Like
it also keeps
obviously,
it centered.
yeah. Oh my god. Like I love that rule of thirds is so important. And honestly, a lot of the movies that are coming out nowadays, your movie would be a lot better if y'all utilized the rule of thirds and kept what you wanted the audience to
Keep
be
it
paying
on
attention
those
to.
inner thirds.
Right, like keep it in the middle or like, and he does a great job with that, and especially with the conversation towards the end between Jack and Furiosa. Like me and Ryan were like going like talking about this, but he just has them lined up so perfectly to where his like right eye and her left eye, if you
I think
like
it's
put
probably
them,
vice versa, but
or
yeah,
yeah,
still you
vice
get the
versa.
you get
Like
the
if you
point.
put them on top of each other and put a line down the middle, their eyes would pretty much be lined up, and that is just
Like if you're
amazing.
looking into Jack's left eye, as soon as it cuts, you would be looking at Furiosa's right eye. So you
Exactly.
don't have to really like. If anything, you could focus on the entire center of like the movie, like zone out, and you would still get what the movie meant.
Yeah.
Because it's just like very rarely will he put anyone to the left, like far left of the screen or far right. It's always going to be centered. Like their eye is going to be in the center of the rule of thirds, and their furthest eye from like the camera is going to be like like on the third.
It just makes sense though. I mean, obviously someone probably could for sure explain to me and give me a logical reason as to why they are putting things that they want the audience to focus on outside of the middle of the thirds, but I feel like just storytelling wise, it's literally just
I
it's
feel
smart just to keep what you want
I
to be
feel like
seen in the middle.
I feel like that's good for horror movies. Like if you
Oh
look
yeah.
at the Rob Zombie Halloween films, Michael Myers is hidden throughout the film
Mm-hmm.
in the like far left or the far right of the screen. If you really pay attention, you'll see him just hiding
Just
in
yeah.
scenes, and like which works for horror.
Right, but only in thriller too, honestly. Because
Yeah,
yeah, obviously don't put what you want to scare the audience right in front of their face. Because yeah, put it somewhere where they're not going to be looking, which is when yeah the other two thirds like that's when it's smart. Like put it like in the peripheral where I'm not even going to be thinking to pay attention, or just
I hide in the shadows too,
exactly. But like for honestly any other type of movie where you're not playing with shadows and wanting to
especially
have it be
action.
dark, exactly. You don't want like keep it in the middle. It just makes sense. And honestly, you don't want your audience's eyes to wander because then they're probably missing points of the story that you want
Like they're
them
not
to like
paying
pay
attention to the
exactly.
dialogue. Whereas if you like focus all your like attention on just the actors, there's no
Ooh,
chance anyone's gonna look it away.
and another thing about not using dialogue, honestly, it forces the audience to keep paying attention too. Like that, you just saying that just made me think about that. Like when you have dialogue, you don't have to pay attention. Like that's why people listen to podcasts when they're driving on like the road because
Or
you don't have to
audiobooks.
pay exactly. You don't have to pay attention. You just have to listen. But if the movie is very dependent on what you're seeing, or if it's like dubbed, I mean not dubbed but subbed, like
Because I yeah.
Godzilla -1, you need to be looking because the action is going to tell you what is going on. Therefore, the audience can't look away. So honestly, another reason and another like why not using that much dialogue is very respectable, which is why I
And
honestly mess with George Miller for that.
also, if you don't do your dialogue, like for instance, people pay attention to Quentin Tarantino
Right.
because his dialogue is really engaging. And if you miss that, you're missing big parts of the film, and that's a majority of like where the like story will happen with like cool action scenes following it. But the action
Exactly.
scenes in this are very much more important because they like tell the story more than like let's say Inglorious, like I mean not Inglorious Bastards, but let's say like Jackie Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Brown's very dialogue heavy. You don't pay attention to the dialogue, you don't know what that film's about. So like, but if you don't pay attention to the dialogue in this, you could totally get what the film's about.
Oh, for sure.
Like if
For
you
sure.
legit watch this on mute, you would get what they're trying, like what's going on.
Which another reason to respect like George Miller, honestly.
But
Then no
also,
shame to Quentin
yeah, no,
Tarantino
I'm
because
not hating on
this
him.
is not. This is honestly just showing you the importance of not using dialogue just as much. Like they're
As
both
using dialogue,
right. Like Quentin, like not everyone is good at writing dialogue. Going to film school, I realize that because so many people just are just
make like
bad at it.
word burgers
Yeah, and
to
I'm like, no,
quote
we
this
have
movie.
conversation. What do you mean you're not good at writing? Like, you don't know how to have conversation. Anyways,
It's the worst when people think they're good at writing and then
there's
they give
not.
me a script with like a fucking like 2 paragraphs of just people talking. I'm like, bro,
Yeah,
what?
and I'm like, oh, this
Unless you're
story is
Evangelion, bro. Like, don't be doing that.
like it's just you have to be like Quentin Tarantino. You have to be good at writing
Dialogue.
conversation. Yeah, otherwise, yeah, you need to honestly learn how to tell a story through everything but that.
But I don't. I think they're both very good ways of telling a story. Like,
Yeah,
obviously, Pulp Fiction. I think Pulp Fiction has a better medium of visual and
yeah,
dialogue. But I think Jackie Brown would be his most heavy dialogue film
yeah.
ever. Like, I don't know. I don't really because I didn't pay that much attention to Jackie Brown to the dialogue. I really don't know what that film's about. So like, I'm sure if I paid attention, like I liked it for a lot. I like Jackie Brown a lot, but I mean, it's definitely the reason why people don't talk about it as much because it's super dialogue heavy.
Another like steering off away from the dialogue because we haven't touched on it. The art for this
Oh, the
movie,
art's
like
really good.
as a filmmaker and for anyone else who is going into film, and just honestly for anyone who hears this that is genuinely in the whole meeting room when coming up with these new films y'all are putting out.
And also,
Oh,
like the art in this, like if you look at Mad Max historically and what it's inspired Fallout. It's inspired Waterworld, which is basically a carbon copy of this, but on water. And, anything leather clad apocalypse, you can thank Mad Max for that. Because that's the one who made that like a thing.
Yeah. I feel like art is just as important as directing.
Especially
Ooh,
for a film
that
like
might be
this.
a little shoulder bump for some people because directing definitely is like the most important, but like don't think that just good directing is going to take you all the way. That is another reason I think Furiosa is honestly so underrated and deserve a lot more hype because this is a movie where every department did their thing. They did their job. And I think they all did it
The acting's
insanely
really
well.
good.
The art is amazing. Like I feel it's just
The art is
like if
really
you
good.
researched it, like
It's also so unique.
exactly. It's just you see cars from the 20s. I see cars from the
You see
2000s.
cars from like the 80s,
Right, like
70s.
every day, like you see how they literally mix and match like parts, which just shows like how post-apocalyptic this
It,
is.
it makes it seem like they like legit just got the best parts of like so many cars and just made them into this like monstrosity, like war rigs and then
Exactly.
V8s. Obviously, that some cars shouldn't have V8s even.
And everybody's dirty. And even the top dogs are dirty. Even the leaders who are the most respected. Everyone here is dirty. Okay, dirty
Dirty.
all on their face, like everywhere, which is a big thing. Like their eyes pop because for a lot of the film, I was just like, "What is it? Like, what is it?" I was just trying to like narrow down like what is really just so in cap, like really bringing me in about. It. I was like, "Oh my gosh, the highlights, the shadows, the whites, the blacks, like." Her eyes pop, but it's because there's so
Yeah.
much grime and dirt on her face, and that's for
Makes her
everybody.
blue eyes pop like crazy.
Exactly. And I don't know, it's just this movie it flopped because I think it didn't reach the right audience,
And
honestly.
also, I think also the reason why it flopped was I mean, Mad Max is very respected, but it's not like huge. It's not huge in like the sense of, let's say like even another car franchise like Fast and Furious. There's not 12 Mad Maxes. There's 6 now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, not even that. There's like 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there's 3 original trilogy, and then there's 2 Fury Road and Furiosa. But
Wow.
I mean, if someone's gonna put on a car movie, I hope someone puts on that Mad Max. I think Mad Max is, I don't know. I think it's just a much better. Like obviously, Fast and Furious kind of sucks, but let's be honest. I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone out there, but I mean, it's Vin Diesel being like family, and then
Did someone
driving, and
say
then driving a
family?
V8 through like explosion. This one, like Mad
There's a
Max,
lot
is a
more
lot.
depth.
There's a lot more
And
depth.
I mean it just honestly goes into world building. World building literally will change how good a film is by so much.
And
This Mad Max has so much depth to it. Like the lore,
I think its uniqueness helps. Like there's
yeah.
like they like try to give me something that's like Mad Max is not directly imitating it.
Exactly. You can give a bunch of like, oh, I can see where this came from. Like I see where that came from. I see where that came from. And it's just a melting pot of ideas that create this one big unique thing. Like it's just Wild West mixed with like biker gang, mixed with like post apocalyptic, mixed with like it's just mixed.
And I think that's also a thing I like about Furiosa a lot too. It meshes what Fury Road will like what's Fury Road,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like it's war rigs, all this big stuff. I feel like if you watch this all in order, from like Mad Max 2 to this movie, you could see the jump.
Yeah.
And then you could see like my man from Fury Road, from Furiosa to Fury Road, that that all like lines up.
No, yeah. It's just I don't know. There's
That's why George Miller is probably my favorite director. He's just visually he's really good, writing he's really good, art he's really good. He knows how to like get good art. He's known how to do that since the '80s.
the deep fake for Anya.
Taylor Joy was pretty
Yeah,
good.
it's pretty because I mean, obviously, we're not at a time where it's just gonna look like perfect. Like I'm not expecting that, but we also are at a time where it's become real obvious. Like the very first horrific incident was Twilight and that baby that they did not need to try and
That
mess
was
up
like
their face.
CGI shit. That baby's
To
demented.
this, like this is really good. Like there's obviously some parts where we could tell, like, oh yeah, they definitely.
I would say the dogs. Like, just to point out the CGI, the dogs are the worst part of the CGI in this movie. They look like they're CGI, but everything else looks fine.
No, yeah, everything else is pretty impressive, honestly, and I give that a lot of props because it didn't really take me out of the movie too much. Because I don't like when something's jarring and I'm like, oh, but there wasn't really many oh moments for this,
Yeah,
which
it's not
is
like a Marvel movie where it's like, oh, Thor flies up in the world, like in the universe, and he sounds like, oh, not sounds, he looks like a PS2 character.
no, yeah, I'm like, guys, like, oh my gosh, what? I can't even think about it. There's another superhero movie too, where yeah, you can clearly tell that that changed from a real person to oh, this is all done online. Like this is all done. Like okay, guys,
Yeah.
like it looks like a video game now. Like versus like oh, this is.
That's Marvel's biggest flaw. It looks like I'm watching a video game half the movie.
I'm not sure where Marvel's budget's going.
Speaking of which, our next review will most likely be Deadpool Wolverine.
Yep.
Spoiler alert, I thought it was okay.
I thought it was also okay, and honestly, we can touch on it for like a quick second and then wrap this up. But yeah, and honestly, to bump it back a little bit, if I hadn't gotten a single opinion from anybody on this earth, and I went into that theater empty-headed, I would have thought it was great, and not like oh, I would have thought it was amazing, but I would have thought it was just as good as the first Deadpool and even the second one.
I thought it was good. I enjoyed my time throughout the whole movie. But literally everyone was telling me like this is the redemption of the MCU. This is like amazing. This is the best like Deadpool movie. It's not even as good as like Deadpool 2.
No, definitely not. It's just the jokes were better. Like the jokes were a little bit more like, okay, we're getting a little bit more like not. I don't even know. I mean, it was great. It was great. It was a great Deadpool movie, and it's honestly what I expected out of Ryan Reynolds, and I wasn't like unsatisfied. Honestly, I think some of the people we talked to overhyped it and saying it was amazing. I mean, it wasn't amazing in the sense that you mean. It was definitely really good. I definitely am not mad.
It's funny. It's super very funny. I did not care in the slightest for like anything that was going on though. But I loved it for the jokes. The jokes might be the funniest in the entire Deadpool like franchise. But at the same time, that movie is not saving the MCU in the slightest.
No, like the movies that are coming up, like y'all, like I really don't know what you're doing. And honestly, I hate that there aren't more critical people watching this because I feel like people just grade movies for such superficial reasons. Like I don't know that this. I don't know, like y'all just it makes me mad. I'm like y'all aren't even like liking and disliking these movies for like the right reasons. Like it's all so like I don't even know how to like word it without it being like I feel like they're so subjective. Like I don't know.
If that's the thing too, it's like I view Deadpool 3 or like Deadpool Wolverine as like a comedy first and foremost. I don't care about some multiverse Wolverine. That's not even the Wolverine from Logan.
No, yeah.
So I'm like, why do I care? This isn't the Wolverine we've been following. Like, sure, I love to see Hugh Jackman back and everything, but
yeah, I was. Yeah, we can't even get into it.
Yeah,
too much,
that's just a sneak peek, though.
Yeah, we're gonna get real into it next time, but. That is the end of Ram-pinions and our review on the super, super underrated movie of 2024, Furiosa.
What would you give Furiosa?
Honestly, I would give it like an 8.5 out of 10. Like, I enjoyed it.
That's very
and I think it was honestly because I went into it empty-headed, knew nothing about it. And I liked it even more watching it the second time. And that was just kind of watching it from like a filmmaker's point of view and just like appreciating it for like all the technical aspects, like what went into
especially
the movie making.
The cinematography. I want to hammer that point home. The cinematography
1,000%.
is absolutely beautiful. If you liked Fury Road, you will love this film.
Yeah, George Miller definitely showed his individuality with this film, and I feel like I love it for that. Like it's not looking like every other thing that's came out this year, and I hate seeing copy and paste.
Why I hate it failed. Like it failed.
I'm like, why?
Which is really why I hope. because there's a new Mad Max movie coming out, and they can like the next couple years,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's kind of like undetermined what's gonna happen with it now. I hope because it's called Mad Max: The Wasteland. I hope it gets made
Yeah.
because I'm sure this would probably close out the like Fury Road trilogy, and if not, it would just be another Mad Max film that would most likely be really good.
Yeah.
But since no one watched this film, I could see that not happening.
Ugh, it makes
Which
me so
sucks.
upset.
Like, I mean, like that was my biggest because I watched it and I was like, how is this failing? How?
It's just okay. I'm gonna touch on one more thing and like, but it's just people like love Dune, bro.
Even in like I didn't like Dune
like,
nearly as much.
And that's what I'm like getting at. I'm like, people love Dune, but you didn't like this, like, and that's not even crapping on Dune, but I'm like, what are we? What's in our mind right now? We're grading stuff. You know?
like Dune's art a lot,
right?
But like, it's still just like a Hollywood blockbuster movie. Like,
and
Fury
honestly,
Road, Furiosa had this like dripping with style.
Yes, and like in the acting too. Like we're gonna review Dune as well. Like we're gonna get into that, but I think Timothée Chalamet honestly under-delivered. Like I know he is a loved actor, and honestly, I love him. I wouldn't say love, but I like him a lot too. And I feel like for his earlier movies,
Paul Atreides,
no,
really?
and I just that's the thing. Like he could have been. That's the thing. Like he got casted. I could see it. I was like, he could tap into this, but he just didn't. And like to touch on it more, the same for Willy Wonka. I just don't think he did it for that as well.
I do love like Dune's art. I do love it. It's really good, but I just like Mad Max more. I like the whole like almost like organic desert hard vibe.
Yeah.
Versus the sleek, clean vibe of Dune. And also, look, I like the 1980s Dune art style a little bit more, but that's also because I just love David Lynch.
Yeah. I feel like, and with all that being said, not crapping on Dune, it's just kind of like questioning, like, really what makes a movie so good to, like, the eyes of everybody else, because I'm really confused, because I'm like, how is everybody, like, I feel like y'all love Dune because Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya was in it, and also it had a really great art, sound, and honestly, the directing went bad. Like, I feel like it was the big names, and everything else didn't underdeliver, but also, this only had, you know, Chris Hemsworth and Iron, like, it just, it makes me...
Also, no offense to anyone out here, I'm not trying to offend y'all, but, like, to me, Mad Max is, like, you got taste.
Yeah.
Dune, you're a follower.
And, like,
but not saying Dune isn't bad. Dune's really good.
Right. And also to jump on, like, to set the tone for future, like, episodes, at the end of the day, these are just our opinions. These do not dictate, like, just because we crap on something, don't mean that's how you need to feel about it, too. And it does not mean that we are coming at anyone who feels otherwise. This is genuinely our opinions and how we feel about it. And for filmmakers, I will say we have a less biased point of view. Like for us, we cannot enjoy a movie and not say, oh, it's bad. It's just not for me. And I feel like that's like just what this is.
Like, let's say challenge. Everyone liked challengers. I didn't like challengers.
I didn't either. And it was honestly more for the directing. Love the
music. Love the DP. Yeah. But the direction, the story and direction wasn't.
And it's crazy because we're gonna end it up in a little bit, but like Luca, the director, he's not even a bad director. I've watched his other work. I loved it. And it was just the way the story pacing, the way it all ended up to the final point. Honestly, we could get into Challengers another episode.
And also, low key, I just didn't like any of the characters. I thought they were all.
I messed with Tashi, but I liked
that's the point.
Yeah, right. That's why I liked her, because it was like. Anyways, I won't give too many opinions about that. We'll leave that for another episode. Yeah. But with all that being said, we've wrapped up, you know, Ram-pinions.
Oh, wait. Oh, no, Ram-pinions.
Ramblings,
Sorry,
Ram-pinions.
First episode, guys.
That's what we're doing. We're rambling about opinions on films. And we've wrapped it up for Furiosa, which is an underrated film. You guys go give it a watch. Yeah, you don't need to go watch other Mad Max movies.
Please have this rebound in like the home box office or whatever it's called. Like
the streaming service at home. It's on HBO.
Watch
Max.
it on HBO. Make
anywhere you can. It's out.
You won't regret it. You really won't.
You will
if you like strong female characters, like Ellen Ripley from Aliens and
Yeah.
let's say like Neytiri from Avatar and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah, like
You'll
she's a
love this film.
strong female character,
Which
female lead at
which
that.
is one thing I want to say. If you're a feminist, watch this film. If you're not, still watch this film. It's has a strong female character, but it's not forced in any way. She earns everything
And you
that like she
feel it.
gets,
You
and you
feel
see
it.
it.
You feel it every single part of the way. You're like, no, she
Like
deserved that.
she
Like,
fought for that.
right? She watched her mother. Like, he pried her eyes open to make sure she saw her mother's last breath, and then again, he did it again with her boyfriend. Like, she deserved it. So you feel it, and we're gonna keep rambling, but overall, an amazing movie, a definite must watch, and an undeserved flop,
For sure,
honestly.
for sure.
And that's the end of the Ramblings episode. Next week, we're going to touch on.
Like Deadpool and Wolverine, right?
Yep. And yeah, I mean, after that, we'll let you know what movie we're going to do next.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Amaya.
And this is Ramblings. We'll see y'all next week.